Okay, you guys, this is my method of explaining to you how to go forward with this assignment. We talked about it recently here, so you have an idea of what you're going to be doing. Now, this is your actual handout, so you should have it in front of you. It's easy enough for me to pick up a topic that is often debated as far as the solution, like childhood obesity, for example. We could brainstorm different ways that childhood obesity should be resolved, or world peace, or discrimination. We can talk about those kinds of things, but it only goes that far as the discussion and coming up with ideas. It's a different assignment to pick a topic of concern, something that needs to be addressed, and to ask you to actually sit down and figure out a plan, the steps that you would take to deal with that solution. And in making your plan, you come up with several options for how to deal with it. You have to think about the pros and cons of the options that you're choosing. And then you'd ultimately decide that, one of them isn't very feasible, it's maybe not going to work very well, or it would take too much work to carry it through. And you'll eventually come to the conclusion that one of your options is the best solution, it will have the best outcome, and will be the most successful. So that's what this assignment is asking you to do, is pick a problem. And like we said, it has to be a problem that is local for you. Sit down and figure out, what is the need that exists? Why have I identified this as a problem? Do other people realize that it can be improved upon? That's the first part. The second part is coming up with your plans. You have to come up with more than just one way to solve this problem. You need to think of what are several methods you could do in trying to come up with a solution here. So you'll list your alternative solutions, and then you'll sit down and weigh the pros and cons of them and think about, this one has more pros than cons, so it's a viable option. Or a second option that you've selected has maybe more problems that are too difficult to overcome, and so it's really not a very good solution to follow through with. And then the third part is, once you've selected the best option to carry forward, then make a plan for it. What are the steps to carry through with that plan? Who's going to be affected by it? How effective do you think it will be in the end? And after all of that explanation of your solution to everything, then explain it and then remind people, summarize what you've been talking about. So this goes through all of the steps of everything. It explains why you're doing this. It explains to you what your 3 different paragraphs should include. So I've already discussed that there. There are steps here. So I've kind of divided your 3 different paragraphs into the point. So paragraph 1 is the issue to be addressed. And then there are questions here that you can think about in your brainstorming. What types of examples can you offer of what the problem is? Or what's the significance? If you are successful, how will it change things for people? Paragraph 2 would be your options. So come up with several of the options you can think of to come up with a solution. And they'll all have flaws. So weigh the pros and cons of them. And once you've gone through all of that part, and that's the really important part, is paragraph 2, then one of them will be a more effective or a better option for you to follow through with. And then paragraph 3 will be your proposal, how you're going to actually accomplish it, so your steps, and then what results you expect to have in the end. And at the end of that paragraph, conclude by reminding the reader what your problem was and then how you've solved it. So there's lots of questions in there you can ask yourself while you're brainstorming. And then there is actually some spaces for you to do your brainstorming. So fill these in, and it's just write things in point form in planning out your paragraphs. So you'll have information and kind of a guideline for how you're going to actually start writing it. And then at the bottom here, it explains to you how this assignment task will be evaluated. So you must be convincing or be confident, right? You're proposing a plan, a solution to deal with a problem, so be convincing. You have to be very detailed in your development of your ideas. So like I said, you can't just say that this is a problem and this is my suggestion in solving it. You have to come up with several suggestions for a solution and reasons why some of those suggestions are more beneficial than others, and then narrow it down, weed them out till you get to the best option. Your style of writing should be personable, think about who your audience would be. So maybe it could be teachers, it could be parents, it could be the World Wide Web. This can go on your blog as well. So if you have an audience in mind, it may change the way that you select certain words or the design of your sentences. Maybe if it's kind of got a lighthearted tone to it as well as persuasive tone. Just be sure that you don't use contractions and that you avoid using slang words. Now your format's going to be slightly different because this is not obviously a literary paragraph. So your background, your topic sentence background should be similar. Setting up the context will be different. Your integration obviously won't exist, but the explain and elaborate and summarize part could be similar. So see what you decide to do with that. And if you come up with a format for your paragraphs, continue with that. Be somewhat consistent with it. And then you're also going to be evaluated on your writing process. So do you follow the steps of the process? Did you do your brainstorming? Did you draft what your paragraphs would look like? How much editing was put into this? Did you edit for your style, for your voice? Did you go back in afterwards and put in persuasive or convincing words to add that tone to it? Like I've said before, with any of your writing assignments, don't be slowed down by the particulars. In writing this, just write your ideas. It's the ideas that you want to get out freely and quickly on paper. And once you've gotten the ideas down, and once you've even written your paragraphs, then you go back into it and you add transitions. You do your editing afterwards. You edit for your style, for your voice, for the persuasive tone. That stuff comes later, but just worry about the ideas part for now. And this should just get you started with your assignment, and then I'll be there soon and we'll go through it, and you can let me know whether or not this was very difficult or confusing or not. I'm guessing, based on your previous experience with essay writing and how we've already put some thought into this, that you should be fairly effective in using your time today, and it should not be too confusing because you've got very clear, organized categories to fill out. So just go through the steps, take your time, and do your best.